Well, I mean, this is exactly what Donald Trump said he was going to do. I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to go back and listen to Donald Trump. Um, listen to him during the campaign, listen to him as he spoke about what his priorities were. You're right. Back in April, I spoke to this issue and I said that the number one priority of the United States will be Fortress America to secure the Western Hemisphere for America. I said the next most important front would be China, to shift resources that weren't going to be allocated to security of the Western Hemisphere to the Pacific to stand up to China there. That the United States would de-emphasize its military engagement in both Europe and the Middle East. Um, this wasn't me, making things up out of thin air. This is simply assessing the statements made by the Trump administration. And, you know, we are now, gosh, what, 10 months into the Trump presidency. There are certain patterns that are appearing because look, you're analytically inclined. I know you are. I follow you. I listen to you. Um, and if you're analytically inclined, the Trump administration has to be one of the most singularly frustrating entities to follow and evaluate because if you do short-term plotting, they're all over the map. I mean, one day they say this, the next day they say something else, they say it again, they say it again, and it's very frustrating. But when you examine these data points over time, you find that they inexorably point in the direction that Trump says he wants to go. It's just that he's not going from A to to Z directly. He is going all over the map, and um, it's difficult. But if you assess Trump over the long term, everything he said he wanted to accomplish, the directions he wanted to go, that's the direction he's heading. And the national security strategy document is reflective of this reality. Also, keep in mind that, he tasked his national security team with the production of this document back in April. So, the guidance that was given for the production of this document remained consistent, and therefore there's no surprises that this document says what it does.
Well, I'm thinking if you switch from you recognize that the world has switched from unipolarity to multipolarity and you have to prioritize places, it does make a lot of sense. That is, first priority is, well, shore up your own hemisphere, that is, yeah, the Western Hemisphere. Then, of course, confront the main adversary, which is in Asia, China primarily. And if you pivot to those places, you pivot away. So that's Europe, which is getting the, well, I guess, short end of the stick. So a lot of this makes sense, but there's a lot of focus on ideology as well, though. How do you make sense of this? Or they call for reducing the role of ideology, to be more specific?
When you take a look at, again, evaluating the Trump administration over time, um, go back to the last national security strategy document that was promulgated by the Biden administration. In it, they build a world vision that is predicated on the defense of the rules-based international order. That's was the sacred mantra of everything American. And from that came the defense of democracy, American democracy imposed on other nations as the gold standard. Um, Donald Trump gave a number of very telling speeches during his campaign in which he rejected the rules based international order and he rejected the notion that America has a right to dictate things, outcomes to other nations based upon, American principles, values, etc. Um, he said the place for American values is at home. That's where we need to defend them at home. Um, and if we shouldn't be projecting them out of our shores if we haven't fully defended them at home, that's a little bit hypocritical. Remember the one of the answers about to a question he gave, Putin is a killer. He said, "Well, we've killed a lot of people too." You know, um, very pragmatic, realistic answer. I would say that it shouldn't take anybody by surprise that you know Trump, when evaluating the world we live in, is more interested in the practicalities, um, economic relations, who we invest our money in. Why are we investing money to places? And there's a difference between telling people what you have to do, which Trump says that's not our role, and giving people money. Trump's like, I'm going to give you money if you align with us, if you're on our side, if you're doing what we want, if you do what we believe in, then you can get money. When it comes to Europe right now, I mean, let's just look at, again, a simplistic analogy, but we'll use it nonetheless, or a simplistic, mechanism of explanation. NATO claims to be all about America. I mean, my God, the Secretary General of NATO can't, he just falls over himself to praise America and the role that America plays, the leadership role, especially when we tell NATO how much money they have to spend. That we must spend this money because Daddy told us to. Okay, that's one way. Now, then there's the European Union, which is as anti-American as the day is long. Let's just be honest about it. I can dig through all European Union statements. They are anti-American. They're fundamentally anti-American. And it's not just the fact that they're posturing themselves as a global competitor to the United States. They don't like us. They simply don't like us. They belittle us. I read their stuff. I'm not, this to be true. Go into the web pages of any one of these European parliamentarians that fly the blue flag and the gold stars and posture themselves as to be the moral equivalent or superior of the United States of America. They hate the United States of America and they despise Americans. We're only useful when we do what they want us to do, but they don't like it. Look, some of the times they don't like us for cause. I mean, you know, America's a war power and a warmongering nation. Yep, guilty as charged. But then don't pretend to be our friend when you put on your NATO hat. Because the same people that condemn us when they wear their EU hat are the same people that are embracing us when they were in their NATO hat. This is a fundamental inconsistency that the Trump administration's fed up with. And the other thing is when we sit down with Europe and try and say, who do we want to align ourselves with? We don't want to align ourselves with people who, A, denigrate us. If you don't like America, guess what? We don't like you either. So, we shall go our own ways. But, the other thing is, if you act in a way that is against core American values, then don't expect us to embrace you either. And freedom of speech is a core American value. And it certainly isn't being practiced in Europe today in many locations. Interference in elections. I mean, you guys, Europeans, wake up. This is Donald Trump. Okay, he believes fervently that the election was stolen from him in 2020. He knows, and this is an absolute, that the Democrats sought to undermine his 2016 candidacy. All right, so now you're running around playing stupid games in Romania, Moldova. You're seeking to outlaw a political party in Germany, and you want the United States, you want this president to be silent? No, you're anti-American by definition. And this is the national security strategy of the United States that seeks to promote American security interests. So don't be surprised that we've turned against Europe. And this is a fundamental turn. This isn't, a little lover's spat. This isn't a quarrel that will be papered over. This is of a fundamental nature. Europe is on a pathway, according to the Trump administration, to civilizational erasure. That means you're gone. You're doing it to yourself. We have decided that we will try to get those European nations, not the European Union, not the European community, those European nations that are worth saving on the right trajectory. But NATO is finished. I hope people understand that too, because the Trump administration has said there are members of NATO today who don't reflect the cultural values and realities of the nations that signed the charter. And therefore, they are incompatible with what we believe should be defended under the charter. It's over, finished, done. Goodbye.